Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the US ups its involvement in the fight back against Boko Haram by announcing the deployment of hundreds of troops to Cameroon. 90 have already been sent over. Their focus will not be combat, though, rather intelligence and surveillance. Also, at least half a dozen people are killed in the latest clashes in Bujumbura. Tensions over President Nkurunziza's third term in power continue to spark eruptions of violence. And South Africa's first female police chief suspended, Ria Fiyega, has been pulled off the job as investigators take a closer look at her role in the Maracana massacre of 2012, in which police shot dead dozens of striking miners. But first, 90 US military personnel have already headed out to Cameroon as part of up to 300 troops being deployed there to help in the fight against Boko Haram militants. Announcing the commitment on Wednesday, Washington also said that surveillance drones are being sent over. The Nigerian extremists have allied themselves with Islamic State and this year stepped up cross-border attacks on Nigeria's neighbours. On Sunday, at least 9 people were killed in suicide bombings in Cameroon's far north. Philip Crowther is in Washington for us. He tells us why, though Nigeria is still the country being hardest hit by Boko Haram, the US is sending these troops to Cameroon.
It's a clear assessment on behalf of the White House that Boko Haram is a regional and a transnational threat. That is why these troops are heading specifically to Garua, that is in northern Cameroon and very close to the Nigerian border. In other words, these will be troops who won't only be active in Cameroon, they'll be active across the border in Nigeria as well, and possibly even in other countries. This is the United States that's clearly showing that Boko Haram not only is a regional threat, but also that the United States wants, or rather needs, to be part of this West African alliance, the multinational task force that should be up and running, but of which we're hearing very little. That is, of course, the likes of Cameroon, of course, where these US troops will be based, but also troops from Chad, from Benin, from Nigeria, and from Niger. All of them together are supposed to be this multinational task force that is able to go up against Boko Haram. But clearly it needs the logistical help and the advice and the training and indeed the presence of US and French troops on the ground to get this operation really up and running against Boko Haram.
Fatal violence has continued to erupt in Burundi's capital. This amidst tensions triggered by President Pierre Nkurunziza's successful bid earlier this year for a third term in office. At least 6 people were killed in clashes on Tuesday. Soldiers have been accused of being heavy-handed in their crackdown. Meanwhile, police accuse what they're calling insurgents of being behind the violence.
In Burundi, the violent protests witnessed before the presidential poll have ceased. But since Pierre Nkurunziza's re-election in July, nearly every day bodies are found on the streets of Bujumbura. It was the case again this Wednesday morning in the district of Gagara, a stronghold of the opposition. After a policeman was killed, security forces intervened and killed several civilians. We spoke to a witness.
A policeman was killed. Then 5 police vans came. Wherever they could enter houses, they killed people, including a whole family. We live in fear. We need help. These policemen will kill us one day.
Christophe Kezabahizi's whole family was killed. He was a journalist for the state television. The police force said it had done nothing wrong.
The police never carry out revenge attacks on an emotional whim. They always follow strict rules.
Since Pierre Nkurunziza's controversial re-election, there have been targeted killings of government and opposition figures, attacks against the police, and summary executions.
South Africa's police commissioner, Ria Fiyega, has been suspended on full pay pending an inquiry into her conduct during the Maracana massacre of 2012. In the worst police killing since the end of apartheid, officers shot dead 34 striking miners. Earlier this year, an investigation into the violence found evidence of poor police planning and recommended that a closer look be taken at Fiyega's leadership during the crisis. The country's opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, has welcomed the suspension, expressing concern about Fiyega's tackling of allegations of police brutality and South Africa's violent crime rate. Aisha Ishmael's in Cape Town for us.
Members of Parliament across the political spectrum today welcome President Jacob Zuma's decision, saying that he had made the right decision. But the Freedom Front Plus, a right-wing political organization, went a step further, saying that President Jacob Zuma was not completely blameless, saying that he was the person who had appointed Ria Pierre, and therefore he should also be held liable and responsible. Now, this is the third police commissioner to be removed from this position following gross incompetence. President Zuma has consistently been criticized for appointing people to this very senior and important position and appointing people with no police experience to this important position. And when Pierre was appointed in 2012, she admitted to her lack of experience and reportedly said that one did not have to be a drunkard to own a pistol. And, you know, for somebody of her caliber to make a statement like that, Jacob Zuma was criticized for this appointment. What will now happen is that there will be another commission of inquiry to look into Pierre's and the police's conduct on that day, on the 16th of August, when 34 miners were shot dead.
Aisha Ishmael there for us. Well, Benin's former president, Mathieu Kérékou, has died aged 82. Nicknamed the Chameleon, he was one of the continent's longest-serving leaders and ruled for 30 years after first coming to power in 1972. He was a political icon both in and beyond Benin. Though he was first installed as leader in a coup, he went on to pave the way for democracy and multi-party politics. The country starts a week of mourning from Friday. A UK hospital said that a British nurse who was successfully treated in January after contracting Ebola in Sierra Leone has fallen ill with the virus once again. Pauline Kafeki is said to be critically ill. Cases of reactivated Ebola are extremely rare. Kafeki was infected during the world's worst ever outbreak of the disease, which has killed over 11,000 people across West Africa since December 2013. Cameroon now, and around the streets and marketplaces of parts of Douala, piles of food waste can make getting about pretty slippery business. One startup, though, is taking those leftovers and turning them into eco-friendly fuel. Have a look.
Every day, Alphonse and Cedric go around the markets in central Douala clearing food waste. Today, market stallholders have abandoned kilos of corn leaves, but one man's garbage is another's treasure.
We're collecting food waste for the preparation of organic charcoal. We do it every day.
The students and eco-entrepreneurs have developed a process for transforming the waste into fuel. Once they've gathered enough raw material, they head to their specialist recycling unit to begin the drying process.
We put the waste in at 105 degrees, and after a few minutes the leaves lose their moisture and are ready to be transformed into fuel.
Next, they char the material to cinders in an oven before soaking them in a mixture of water and white clay. The result is organic charcoal briquettes for cooking. A kilo of briquettes costs less than traditional wood charcoal and is enough to cook 5 meals instead of 2.
I prefer the organic charcoal. It's effective, it's economical, it doesn't produce smoke, and it heats and cooks food just as well.
Chemit Ecology currently produces 1 tonne per month. But despite a bulging order book, Alphonse and Cedric admit that investment is needed to prevent this eco-project going up in smoke.
That's it for Eye on Africa. Do stay with us. So a short break and more news from around the world coming up.